At first, there is only darkness. Then, a voice cuts through the silence.
Prince, you've doomed us all!
Your eyes burst open. Cold stone presses against your face. You lift your head. Red stains cover the palace floor. Your fingers tighten. A sword is already in your hand. You don't remember drawing it. You slowly rise. Your legs shake. The room is silent. Too silent. Then you look around. The palace is destroyed. Then you hear cracking glass. You look up. And golden sand pours into the room like rain. It moves like it's alive. Then memories slam into your mind. War, fire, screams, and your hand opening the hourglass.
You whisper the truth. I did this. Just yesterday, the world looked different. The sun rose over Persia, and your army marched toward glory. You were young, fast, proud, certain that nothing could stop you. Beside you rode your father, a king feared by enemies, admired by soldiers. Then you saw it, the Maharaja's palace, riches beyond imagination. Then your advisor leaned close.
Win this palace, and history will remember your name.
You didn't hesitate. You gave the order to attack. The gates shattered. Your army flooded inside. Victory felt easy. Inside were mountains of gold, jewels, weapons, relics, and your greed grew louder. But at the end of the chamber, one door was sealed, as if something inside should never be touched. And instead of turning back, you stepped closer. The ancient door groaned open. Cold air rushed out. Something inside had been waiting for centuries. Inside, treasures were worthless compared to what stood in the center. A giant hourglass, alive with golden light. Beside it rested a blade. Small, elegant, dangerous. The Dagger of Time. The moment your fingers touched it, the blade pulsed like a heartbeat. You smiled. You thought you had found a trophy. Then your advisor entered quietly and stared at the hourglass with hunger. Prince, prove yourself. Use the dagger. Open the hourglass. For 1 second, you hesitated. Something felt wrong. Then pride spoke louder than caution. You raised the dagger, and with one reckless move, you stabbed the hourglass.
The moment the dagger pierced the glass, light exploded across the chamber. Golden sand burst outward like a living storm. It moved with hunger. Outside the chamber, soldiers began to scream. Their skin hardened, their eyes glowed. Men became monsters.
You saw your father reach for you, then vanish into dust. And your advisor, he smiled. He wanted this all along. Walls cracked, bridges collapsed. The palace became a trap.
Then one of your own soldiers lunged at you, no longer human. You struck instinctively. The creature burst into sand. The screams faded, and for the first time, you realized the kingdom was lost. In the ruined palace, silence returned. Then you heard footsteps behind you. She stepped into the light. Farah, princess of the kingdom you destroyed. Before you could move, an arrow pointed straight at your heart. Her eyes narrowed.
The Prince of Persia! You caused this.
You opened your mouth, but no excuse sounded strong enough. Then a roar echoed behind you. The dead had found you again. Without speaking, you fought together. When the dust settled, she still didn't trust you. But she didn't leave.
The hourglass must be sealed again, or this curse will consume everything.
You nodded, because for the first time, you needed someone else to save the world you broke. Farah led you into an ancient passage. The walls were lined with blades. One wrong step meant death. You stepped forward, Spike shot upward instantly.
Watch the floor!
She pulled you aside just in time. Then the walls began to move. Circular blades spun toward you. Ahead, the bridge had collapsed. Only a narrow beam remained. Without thinking, you leaped. You barely made it, Farah laughed. For the first time, the tension cracked. Then growls echoed below. The cursed soldiers had found you again. Sword and arrow. Step by step, you fought as one. When the battle ended, she handed you an arrow to use as a lockpick. She trusted you a little.
You ran ahead too fast. Your foot slipped, and suddenly, there was no ground beneath you.
Spikes waited below. There was no escape.
In panic, your hand reached for the dagger.
The blade flashed blue. Everything stopped.
Then the world moved backward. You were standing safely again. Seconds before you slipped.
Farah blinked.
Why did you suddenly jump back?
She remembered nothing.
You threw a loose stone, activated the dagger again, and watched it fly backward into your hand. But each use drained glowing sand from the dagger. The power was limited.
You smiled. For the first time since the curse began, you had an advantage.
For a brief moment, the palace was quiet. No monsters, no traps, just you and Farah. She made a joke about your arrogance, and for the first time, you laughed together.
Somewhere between battles, you had started trusting her. But Farah's eyes stayed on the dagger. She knew what it truly was. Then, in one swift motion, she grabbed it. Before you could stop her, an iron gate crashed between you.
You opened the Hourglass. I must be the one to close it.
You shouted her name. For once, pride was gone.
Farah didn't turn back. She walked alone toward the tower. The silence returned, and this time it hurt more. You refused to lose her. With rage and desperation, you forced the gate open. You ran through collapsing halls. Every second felt stolen. The cursed dead rose one last time. To stop you, you fought like a man with nothing left to lose. At last, the tower chamber. You heard her voice inside.
You burst inside. Farah stood near the edge. The floor cracked beneath her. You lunged forward. Your fingers almost touched hers. But almost is not enough. She fell into the darkness below. Only one thing was left behind. The dagger. You picked it up slowly. Now there was only one thing left to do. You stood alone. Storms raged above the tower. And still, you climbed. Every cut burned. Every step hurt. But pain no longer mattered. At the summit, the Hourglass roared like thunder. You didn't hesitate. You ran straight toward destiny. With one final cry, you drove the dagger into its heart. The palace rebuilt itself. The dead rose backward. The curse unraveled. Then suddenly, you were back. Before it ever happened, Farah stood before you, alive, but her eyes held no memory. You whispered one word, Kakalukia. Her eyes widened. Maybe she remembered, maybe not. But one thing was certain. You were no longer the reckless boy who began this story. You had become a king. This is how you wake up as a Prince of Persia, who unleashed the sands of time.